You've probably met many men in your life, but there is always one man a woman never forgets. Strangely, it's rarely the man who chased the hardest. It's the man who stayed calm, mysterious, and completely in control of himself. The man who didn't beg for attention, didn't compete for validation, and somehow left a permanent mark on her mind. So what makes a man unforgettable in a woman's psychology? Today, we're revealing 6 powerful behaviors that silently place a man inside a woman's thoughts for years. And once you understand them, you'll never look at attraction the same way again. Some men pass through a woman's life like a brief season, pleasant but temporary, easy to forget once time moves forward. But then there is another kind of man, a man whose presence lingers in the quiet corners of her mind long after he is gone. A man she remembers years later without fully understanding why. Not because he tried the hardest, not because he chased the most, and not because he constantly demanded her attention. In fact, it was often the opposite. He moved with a quiet certainty. He didn't rush to prove himself. He didn't beg for validation. And somehow, that calm restraint left a deeper mark than any loud display of affection ever could. Every woman remembers at least one man like this, the one who never tried too hard, yet somehow became unforgettable. There was something about the way he carried himself, something subtle yet powerful, a presence that created a strange mixture of curiosity, tension, admiration, and respect. Human memory doesn't hold on to ordinary emotions for long. Simple attraction fades, temporary excitement disappears, even strong feelings slowly soften with time. But when emotions mix together in the right way, they become something far more powerful. When curiosity meets desire, when admiration blends with mystery, when respect quietly grows beneath the surface, the mind begins to hold on to that experience. It becomes a memory that refuses to fade. And the truth is, unforgettable men are rarely the loudest or the most dramatic. Often, they are simply the most self-controlled. Their behavior sends quiet signals that many people never consciously notice, yet those signals shape how deeply they are remembered. The first quiet behavior that makes a man unforgettable is surprisingly simple. He knows how to say no. This may sound small, but psychologically, it changes everything. Many men feel a constant pressure to please. They agree with every opinion, they accept every request, they tolerate every mood, not because they truly want to, but because they fear losing approval. So they say yes when they want to say no. They follow when they would rather lead. And slowly, without realizing it, they give away their sense of authority. But the man who calmly refuses when something doesn't feel right sends a completely different message. He doesn't raise his voice. He doesn't argue aggressively. He simply speaks with quiet certainty. No, that's not something I want. And then he stands by his words. That calm refusal reveals something powerful. It shows that he values honesty more than approval. It shows that he is comfortable disappointing someone if it means staying true to himself. Psychologically, this creates a strong emotional impression, because when someone has clear boundaries, their presence feels stable, grounded, real. A woman may not immediately react with excitement, but somewhere in her mind, she notices. She realizes this is not a man who bends himself into whatever shape is necessary to be liked. And strangely, that quiet independence often makes him far more attractive. The second behavior that leaves a deep emotional imprint is something most people fear doing: walking away first. In moments of tension, many men react with urgency. If a conversation becomes distant, they send another message. If a woman becomes cold, they try harder to win her back. If there is silence, they rush to fill it. But the man who quietly steps back when things feel wrong changes the emotional dynamic entirely. He doesn't chase. He doesn't argue endlessly. Instead, he protects his peace. He gives space. And sometimes, he simply leaves. Not out of anger, not out of pride, but out of self-respect. That choice creates a powerful shift in perception. Because when someone refuses to chase emotional chaos, their absence suddenly becomes noticeable. Silence creates space for reflection, and in that space, curiosity begins to grow. She starts to wonder what he is thinking, why he didn't react like others, why he seemed completely comfortable walking away. And often, that quiet mystery echoes in her thoughts far longer than constant attention ever could. The third behavior is connected to purpose. Many men unknowingly lower their perceived value by constantly competing for attention. They respond instantly to every message. They rearrange their entire schedule to be available. They revolve their time and energy around one person. But attention is one of the most valuable psychological currencies we possess. Where we direct it reveals what we truly value. The unforgettable man understands this. His life is not centered around gaining someone's approval. Instead, he is focused on building something meaningful. His goals demand time. His ambitions require discipline. His purpose shapes his daily energy. Because of this, his attention becomes naturally limited. He gives it thoughtfully, not endlessly. And that restraint creates an interesting psychological effect. Scarcity increases perceived value. When something is rare, people notice it more. So when a man is deeply invested in his own mission, his presence begins to feel unique. Not because he is trying to be mysterious, but because his life already contains meaning beyond constant validation. That quiet dedication often sparks curiosity. She begins to wonder about his world, his goals, his direction, and slowly, respect grows. The fourth unforgettable behavior involves honesty. Conflict is something many people avoid. They stay silent even when they know something is wrong. They hide their true opinions to keep the atmosphere comfortable. But silence in those moments often communicates weakness. The man who stands out handles these situations differently. When he sees something unfair, he speaks. When he believes someone is wrong, he addresses it. But here is the key difference. He does it calmly, no shouting, no insults, no emotional explosions, just steady, composed truth. I don't agree with that. That behavior isn't okay. And then he explains his reasoning with quiet clarity. This type of honesty carries emotional weight. Because it shows courage without aggression, it proves that he values integrity more than temporary comfort. Psychologically, people trust individuals who are willing to speak the truth even when it's inconvenient, and over time, that steady authenticity creates deep respect. The fifth behavior that makes a man unforgettable is emotional discipline. Desire is a powerful force. When attraction appears, many men immediately reveal everything they feel. They rush forward with compliments, attention, and declarations of interest. But intensity without control often removes the sense of mystery. It reveals the entire emotional landscape too quickly. The unforgettable man feels desire, but he does not let it control him. He allows attraction to grow naturally. He does not rush to expose every feeling the moment it appears. Instead, he remains composed. His emotions are present, but contained. And that containment creates a subtle tension. Because when someone clearly has feelings yet chooses patience, it signals strength. It shows that he is not driven purely by impulse. This quiet restraint often increases curiosity. She begins to sense that there is depth beneath the surface, something not easily revealed, and human psychology is deeply attracted to depth. Mystery invites exploration. The sixth behavior involves respect, but not the kind most people expect. Many men offer intense admiration immediately when they encounter beauty. They place someone on a pedestal before truly knowing them. Compliments come quickly, validation flows endlessly, but respect given too easily often loses its meaning. The unforgettable man approaches this differently. He appreciates beauty, but he doesn't confuse it with character. For him, respect grows through experience, through actions, through consistency, through loyalty. He observes how someone behaves when things are easy, and when they are difficult, and only then does deeper admiration develop. This standard creates an interesting psychological shift. When respect must be earned, people often rise to meet the expectation. They become more thoughtful, more attentive, more genuine, and in that process, attraction grows alongside admiration. Because relationships built on mutual respect tend to create the strongest emotional bonds. By this point, something becomes clear. Unforgettable men are not defined by manipulation or games. They are defined by mastery of themselves. They control their reactions. They protect their time. They guard their attention. They do not try to impress everyone, and they do not desperately chase validation. Instead, they quietly build lives that feel meaningful and balanced. And ironically, that inner stability often creates the strongest external attraction, because people naturally gravitate toward those who appear grounded within themselves. When someone knows who they are and what they stand for, their presence feels calm, confident, secure, and those qualities leave lasting impressions. If you truly want to become unforgettable, the answer is not to give more of what everyone else already offers. Endless availability is common. Constant approval is common. Desperate attention is common. But discipline is rare. The discipline to pause before speaking. The discipline to walk away from chaos. The discipline to stay focused on your purpose. These quiet forms of control shape how others perceive you far more than loud displays of affection ever will. Because the moment a person learns to master their own emotions, something fascinating happens. Their energy changes. Their presence becomes steady. Their words carry more weight. And without even trying, they begin to influence the emotional atmosphere around them. People notice. Curiosity grows, respect follows, and sometimes, without fully understanding why, someone finds themselves thinking about that person long after the moment has passed. That is the quiet paradox of attraction. The more someone tries desperately to be remembered, the more forgettable they often become. But the person who simply lives with discipline, clarity, and self-respect, the person who masters themselves before trying to master anyone else, that person leaves a very different kind of mark, a memory that lingers, a presence that echoes through time, and in the silent spaces of reflection. She remembers the man who never tried to control her emotions, because he had already learned how to control his own, and somehow, that kind of man becomes impossible to forget.